Welcome back to Man Now Sports. As you can see from the thumbnail, we got to get into this conversation with Rich Paul and his podcast with Max Kellerman and this dude hypothetically trading teammates of his client LeBron James. It's just too much going on, man. Man, I should have got in here yesterday and talked about this, man, but I was busy watching games and stuff like that and working and doing all types of stuff, man. So I try to get in here really quick and try to get through some of these topics, man. Rich the Rat Paul is once again, man, making noise in the podcast airways, man, on social media and all that stuff. And man, I thought Max Kellerman getting fired from First Take was like such a bad thing and such a travesty and all that stuff, man. But the way he linked up with Rich Paul and the hot takes they throwing out there and the propaganda and all this stuff, man. I'm like, man, come on, man, don't come back. You was gone for a year, 2 years almost, just to get in the lab and come up with that. Come back with Rich Paul and come back, throwing hot takes out there. Like, this is ridiculous, man. I don't even know if we mismatched or not. But they both at it. And I guess we'll get into some of the stuff you said. Well, some of the stuff Rich Paul and Max Kellerman said, but in a nutshell, it hit the airways yesterday where, he's on the podcast and he's talking about if he was the Lakers owner or the Lakers GM, what he would do is go out to Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies, and he said he would use Austin Reaves as the trade bait for that. The bad thing about that is the fact that Austin Reaves is in the contract year. Rich Paul is a client. Oh, not a client. He's an agent, and his client is LeBron James, who's a teammate, who's been getting, he's notorious for getting people traded. Like, we know, I mean, it just happened last year to get AD traded to get Luka, right? So trades happen all the time around LeBron James. And whatever LeBron James tweets or says in the public, or whatever Rich Paul tweets or says in the public, can't be taken lightly. Like, they're always maneuvering and trying to figure things out and conjure things and do all these, things of that nature. They're always, on the go like that. So you just can't listen to him say something like that and just take it lightly. Like this, they're way more calculated than that. So the fact that he's saying that he's LeBron's teammate, it seems like the things around LeBron isn't going the way he wanted to. He didn't get his contract extension. The team played phenomenal without him. Austin Reaves was having a breakout year. Luka was, looking like an MVP candidate. The Lakers were winning, and this was all without LeBron James. And he comes back, and that changes. By the second game, it changed. And then Austin Reaves, of course, got hurt. And now we're trying to figure out what's going on and hear the rumblings from Rich Paul. So for those of y'all who didn't hear what he said that made its rounds around the airways yesterday, here's what he said about Austin Reaves.
If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner for Jaren Jackson.
That'd be a great fit.
I would.
For whom?
Some way, somehow, I would be trying to get Jaren Jackson, maybe get back Gigi Jackson. But I think if you're building around Luka going forward, which they are,
you need a guy like that.
You need that anchor. And Jaren doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. They just put Ja Morant on the market, saying that they're willing to trade him, etc. If you're able to trade out expirings and give up the last first round pick you got, that could be one scenario. Or you can say, let me withhold that, but this comes with
Austin Reaves.
This comes with a very unemotional attachment because Austin is beloved, which he should be.
But he's about to get paid.
He's an underdog. There's a world where you can do what's best for your team and do what's best for Austin, because Austin deserves to get paid.
All right, so that's the little bit that he said yesterday. He's saying, hey man, now. First, before I get into how unethical this is for an agent whose client is, not only is this a client, it's on the guy's team that you're talking about. That guy is not your client. He has an agent, right? That's one thing. The second thing is, like I said, LeBron has a history of getting people traded. And the third thing is LeBron is been the face of the league for so long. You really got to watch what you say when you have that type of pull or power, whatever the case may be. You might not have it no more, but the perception is that you still do, right? So on all accounts, that's just bad juju. Like, you got to be aware enough to know that you shouldn't be saying that on a freaking podcast, saying, yeah, here's an idea to trade this guy. Because everybody's thinking it. Like, everybody was like, man, this is not going to work with those three guys. Somebody got to go. And it ain't going to be Luka because he's the future. And it ain't going to be LeBron because nobody want to mess up his legacy. So everyone knows that Reaves is the odd man out. And he's trying to get his first big payday. And you're throwing, you throwing mud around like that, man. It's just not good. You shouldn't do that. So, but before I even get into the weeds of that, the idea of getting Jaren Jackson Jr. actually is actually a good idea. It's actually a good idea to trade Austin Reaves, get Jaren Jackson Jr. back. But honestly, at the end of the day, you're still going to have to figure something out for LeBron. So even adding Jaren Jackson Jr. is just it's something that's good for the future because he's also a young guy that you can build around. So you actually get LeBron and AD part 2. Honestly, you get LeBron and AD part 2. You get Luka, who has that same ball dominant style as LeBron. LeBron in his later years stopped playing defense, and Luka never played defense. So you still got the same thing there. And then you got the big guy that's 7 foot, 4 wingspan back there who plays defense very well and blocks shots, and who's always a defensive player of the year candidate in Jaren Jackson Jr., just like Anthony Davis was. But LeBron is dead weight at that point. So he's got to go. So I actually like the idea. But what he's never saying is the fact that something needs to be done about LeBron too. That's what he's never saying. Right. So if you want to speak on somebody else's client, Austin Reaves, how come there's never any ideas about what to move LeBron or what to move Bronny James? Like I never hear you talking about your own client. So that lets me know that it's in bad taste to be out there throwing stuff around like that, because you wouldn't even do it for your own client, because that will actually hurt their chances at getting the money that they deserve, right? They actually will hurt their chances if you're talking like that. So he knew better to, say it for his client, so he should have known not to say it for someone else's client, right? So, but as a result of that, the agent of Austin Reaves did approach him. He did approach him. So, and they talked about that on today's podcast.
Not enough who commented on what you said actually watched the clip, even the full clip.
Right. Including my man, Reg, who happens to be Austin's agent. Mm-hmm. We talked, this is my guy. I mean, I've known him for 20 years. And he said, Rich, I didn't watch the shows. Okay. So we talked about it. And I'm like, look, Reg, you my man. And I want Austin to know this is not about Austin Reaves, because 1, love the player, love the person. And 2, I actually need him to help me with my golf game. So I'm not trying to mess up anything with AR.
I don't remember who, I think it was I who brought up.
You brought it up.
Reaves, because you were saying this is how they could get him. And you were talking about draft picks and matching salaries and expiring. But the obvious thing is that Austin Reaves is a really good player and he's about to get paid. And there's a little bit of redundancy on the team because they already have an on-ball scorer in Luka.
But see, I'm starting to figure this out now, Max. I think you're doing this shit on purpose.
I'm setting you up.
I really do. I really do. Because this is about the 4th time you didn't put me in this situation by getting me to elaborate on something.
Guilty.
And the reason why you do that is because you know through our previous history that I cannot lie.
Yes, you will.
And I'm going to be straightforward.
Yeah.
And teams know this as well. But you're not slick and you won't get me again. I believe it's very complimentary to AR because he's on a team with 2 future Hall of Famers and he happens to be the asset, right? So that's not a negative
Unless
thing.
you want to move Luka. Like, but we all know the reality. Look, honestly, what would you rather do if you were the Lakers and box office is not I'm trying to get them already?
No, you're not. You're not about to do that.
Let me say what I would
do. That, Max.
If I were the Lakers, I would give serious consideration to moving Luka. And I'll tell you why.
Oh my
You are going to
God.
get, if you believe there's a redundancy, Austin and Luka. Luka's a better player than Austin Reaves. I understand that. Luka's a fantastic player offensively. But if you want to win a championship, I believe that your best player needs to be someone who is willing to at least play team defense.
Second degree sprain of
right. So so he talked about the agent approaching him, which he should have. I mean, come on, you're talking about my freaking client. We're in the middle of negotiating, trying to get an extension with the Lakers, and this is about to be a payday for him and a payday for me as well if I'm the agent, right? So, and you, with the power that you got, the voice you got, and the fact that LeBron is the GM, and everybody knows that, you got some nerve to be on here putting this stuff out on the podcast and throwing this idea out there in the atmosphere. And if you're willing to do this out in the public, what are y'all saying behind closed doors? What are y'all saying behind closed doors? Are you talking to Rob Pelinka? I mean, we know LeBron and Clutch Sports basically got JJ Redick hired. So I'm pretty sure LeBron still has his ear somewhat. Or is LeBron in JJ's ear? Is he in, Pelinka's ear? Like, what the heck is going on? That's too close for comfort for me. Like, I'm uncomfortable, dog. Like, me and my client are both uncomfortable. Like, he's teammates with this guy. I'm his agent. And here you are as LeBron's agent out here talking about trade scenarios for my client that could really affect his livelihood, right? Y'all make sure y'all hit the like button. Get the likes up, y'all. They can really affect his livelihood. So it was very poor taste. It was very poor taste. And then now Max want to get involved in the messiness. Like, they really are playing the podcast game the grimy, the sleazy way, instead of just discussing stuff and being interesting to folks by how you discuss whatever you discuss by being real. You're playing into the clickbait type stuff, propaganda. Like, I don't know if they're being clickbaity, or I don't know if clickbaity, I'm sorry, or I don't know if there's some type of agenda where he really wants to make things better for LeBron his last couple of years with LA, which might involve moving Austin Reaves. One thing we do know about Rich Paul is he's all about the money. He's all about the money. As a matter of fact, Anthony Davis is still his client. Anthony Davis is over there in Dallas. Anthony Davis have been in the trade rumors and in the trade talks all season long. And for some reason, I was like, this don't sound right. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, Nico brought him in. Jason Kidd, coach AD, he liked them. They had a direction. They wanted a defensive-minded team. They got Cooper Flag. They got AD. Kyrie's coming back. They ain't even seen the full team healthy yet. Why would you want to move on for AD so soon? I get it. You might be scared of his injuries, but do you at least want to see him with Cooper Flag and Kyrie Irving fully healthy for a season before you make a decision on that? Like, do you want to see that? I always thought that, but then I thought, well, they fired Nico, so maybe someone else is making decisions now, and they just want to move on from AD. But I still didn't understand why and how AD would come out on social media and say stuff like, Shams Charania is reporting this trade thing and it's not true. But maybe AD don't even know what Rich Paul is doing behind closed doors. Because I don't think Dallas is the one who's throwing AD's name out there in trade talks. I don't think they are. So who's doing it? And lo and behold, Tim McMahon, who is a Dallas beat writer, has been probing around, asking questions, and he said 3 sources who have told them that Dallas does not want to trade AD. And he said that actually what's going on is Rich Paul is throwing AD's name out there because Dallas didn't want to extend AD. They said we want to wait and see what they look like with Kyrie and Cooper Flag next year. We want to wait and see before we make a decision. We don't want to trade them. We don't want to extend them. Let's wait to see them healthy. And according to the reporter, Rich Paul took that as a no. That means you're not going to extend them. So Rich Paul went behind the scenes and was going to other teams figuring out, hey, if I can get AD, if I could get AD in the trade over here, are you willing to extend them? So Rich Paul feels like he has a couple of teams that would trade for AD and give him the extension. So Rich Paul wants that money. Here's how he explained it.
The whatever ligament. I don't know.
And I'll be honest with you, I have talked to several sources within the Mavericks, obviously. I've really not poked and pried so much on the injury. I've more been focused on their approach as the trade deadline nears. And again, it is very clear that Rich Paul, who represents Anthony Davis, wants Anthony Davis traded before the deadline.
And why would he want that?
Because he believes it's in his best business interest, because he has taken we'll see from the Mavericks regarding an extension as a no. And there are teams where clearly Rich Paul considers it likely that AD would get the kind of extension that he's looking for when he becomes eligible in August. Now, look, the Mavericks are, they were going to explore the trade market regardless. They have been. This is ongoing. They do not feel like they have to trade Anthony Davis. They are telling me and anybody who will listen that they're not trading AD just to make a deal. They don't feel like they have to unload him. Oh my gosh, the deadline's here. Gotta take what the best offer is. They are insistent that they will only make a deal that makes sense for them. And what exactly that threshold is, there's not clarity on that. But it's some combination of draft compensation, promising young talent, and financial relief in the form of expiring salaries. Rich Paul is not going to bully us. That is a direct quote from a member of the Mavericks organization. Another member of the Mavericks organization, referring to Patrick Dumont, the governor. Patrick's not going to sign off on a deal just to do a deal. Ownership doesn't feel any pressure to do an AD deal. A third source. Patrick has no problem going into next year and seeing with a healthy Kyrie and a healthy AD alongside Cooper Flag and seeing what it looks like. So there's the trade deadline, and maybe there's an AD deal to be made. Maybe that they're comfortable making. Maybe there's not.
So there you got it. Tim McMahon said, hey, I've talked to 3 separate sources, and one of them being Patrick Dupont, who's the owner and who's managing this whole thing. And he's saying, nah, man, we ain't in no rush to trade AD. I mean, it ain't no big deal. Like, we can't, like, if an offer came that was just crazy, like, oh man, we'll give y'all Giannis, then I'm pretty sure they'll put a trigger on it. But they saying like, nah, like we comfortable going into next season. We got him on the contract, and next year is an aspiring contract for him. So he even be even more sexier to trade next year than he is right now. Like, we're not in a rush, and we kind of curious to see what it looked like with a second year Cooper Flag, who looks like a generational talent and wise beyond his years. Healthy Kyrie Irving coming back with a year of rest and rehab, and then AD coming back healthy. They can all come back into training camp in shape, healthy, ready to go. Let's see what that looks like, plus a summer training camp, right? So I think what Dallas really want to do is figure out how to get Klay Thompson off their books, because that's a huge salary as well. And I think they're more interested in that. So lo and behold, this whole time it's Rich Paul trying to get AD out of there. So all these stories is coming out, and the reason why everything just looked funky around his hand injury, because the team reporting, hey, might require surgery, this and that, and all of a sudden some report come out of nowhere saying, nah, no surgery, because I think Rich Paul is putting stories out there because he wants his client traded, and if he's injured, nobody's going to trade for him. Not at the deadline, because especially I want you to help us right now, and you can't. Right? You can't. Right? So you're going to be out, I don't know, 6 weeks or whatever. Right? So people might be reluctant to trade for him, and Rich Paul, he's not going to need no surgery, dog. He'll be back in 4 weeks, and because he want that trade to go down. It all makes sense now. That's why so much stuff look conflicting reports and confusion and don't know what's going on. And is he on the block? Is he not on the trade block? And nobody knows. And it's Rich Paul's muddy in the water. Thanks for the cash out from Matt Pack. He said, yeah, let's trade AR because I got my 41-year-old client $50 million. They never talk about getting better at basketball and playing the right way. 19 seasons are coming short, but never short on excuses. Nah, you're right. They never short on excuses, man, for real. They got an excuse book. I think that's gonna be their first book that he dropped when he retired. All the excuses I use. A book. What's up, X-Man? A book of excuses. A book of excuses. It's a lot of comments I'm trying to get to. Brother Jimmer, what's up? Good to see you, bro. Good to see you, Zoe. Bob Ross, what's up? What's up? The legend. So yeah, I think I think Rich Paul, man, I don't respect, some of the stuff he chooses to talk about. I don't think nobody respects him speaking on Austin Reaves the way he did. Like he ain't got no representation and like there wasn't no foul. Like, come on, you got to know that was a foul, dog. Like that is a foul. And it's a foul because you've never done that for your clients. You've never done that. If you don't speak on your clients in that manner, why would you speak on somebody else's client in that manner? Like that makes zero sense. As an agent, I thought the Player podcast was bad. Like I cringe listening to Draymond Green. I'm so sick of it, Draymond. I thought that was bad. I don't mind former players. The only thing former players is that really is bad is when they got loyalties to other players, former teammates or friends or whatnot, and they feel like they can't cover them fairly or honestly or objectively, right? You don't have to go all the way and criticize them like Charles Barkley criticized Michael Jordan, the end of their friendship. You ain't got to do that. I respect you if you do, but you ain't got to, right? But that's one extreme. The other extreme is saying I'm gonna make excuses for everything they do. I'm not even gonna be honest about none of it. The most neutral thing you can do is say, hey man, I ain't really got no comment on that, man. That's my dog. I really ain't got no comment. I would respect that because then you give the other people on the panel an opportunity to say what they go say. And you not giving it no pushback is just a way of you saying, I'm gonna stay out of this one, dog. Because I actually agree with what they saying, but I ain't gonna say that about my homeboy on a public forum like that. I'll let y'all do it. But what they do is we ain't gonna let none of those narratives go. We ain't gonna let none of that truth come out about this guy. Whoever it may be. So that's the issue with former player podcasts. That also happens with current player podcasts as well, but it even goes a step further because they're talking about games that they're actively still playing. It's almost like betting on games while you're still a player, right? It's nothing against it, but unless you bet on a game that you actually played in. But there's nothing against betting while you're still a player, but it's very tacky. And it's a fine line because you might just bet on the game that you're playing in and think you can get away with it. And speaking on the game that you're or the league that you're playing in and players that you're competing against or players you're playing with is tacky as well. Is nothing against it. However, there's at certain times where that fine line can get crossed. That fine line can get crossed where you're going out here talking on the podcast about Kuminga and affecting his money. Well, you should just be quiet. You get what I'm saying? So now we got to the point where we got agent podcasts now with journalists. Oh my goodness. Very tacky, y'all. very tacky times we in, yo, with the sports world. It would be a glorious day if nobody wanted LeBron or Rich Paul anywhere near their franchise at the end of the season. Yeah, free Kuminga for real. I mean, I can get into the Kuminga conversation really quick. And I probably have to go live again tonight after the game because I got some more stuff I want to discuss. I want to get on the Denver Nuggets. I want to talk about Lake and the Luka Lakers. I want to talk about them. Like, it's a whole bunch I gotta get into. I want to get into the Kuminga stuff. I want to get into the All-Star game. I want to talk about the Thunder and Spurs. You know, Thunder played the Rockets tonight, so that should be a decent game. Yes, I want to talk about all that stuff. And I'm thinking I might do it after the game tonight. But we'll see. It might be after the game. We'll see. But I touch on one more topic. Let's get into the Kuminga thing because I think the Jonathan Kuminga situation is so outrageous. And I did a lot of videos talking about the Warriors and Bob Myers and Steve Kerr, Kuminga. Like I've been talking about them off and on a lot. And it's funny, man, so much of stuff that I be saying just, you know, it just sometimes it comes to light. And then everybody is able to see it and I'm like, well, I saw it last year, 2 years ago. But what I saw from this Kuminga situation, the first time he started getting benched, I already knew what it was because I seen this play before. I knew what was going on. They was trying to shape and mold Kuminga into something that he didn't want to be, which is the same thing they did to James Wiseman. And when James Wiseman, pretty much just what it was, Kevon Looney gave up. You know, like it gets to the point where if you're a big man for Golden State, I don't even think they want you working on your game. They just want you to rebound, play defense, and just, you know, set screens and find Steph. Like, when you're a big man, we're not throwing the ball to you in the post. You're not going to go get your own bucket. You know, if you get a lob off of Steph gravity or some type of pocket pass for a dunk or whatever, so be it. But they really discourage scoring from anybody other than Steph and the co-star. And back then that was Steph and Clay. And I wouldn't even say it wasn't bad during the championship years as it is now. And I think when Mike Brown was still with the Warriors and he had competent assistant coaches with him, I think the coach for the Cavs was on that staff. They had I forgot his name, but the coach for the Cavs, Mike Brown, who's a defensive genius and, you know, X and O coach as well, coming under the Popovich tree. Like, he had competent people around him, and I think that helped him a lot. And I don't think he had those guys around him no more. So all he knows is this Steph system, and he can't figure out how to get offense generated for nobody else but Steph. And they got to figure out how to win from that. And they want everybody to be a robot like Draymond and just, hey, man, set screens, rebound, you know what I'm saying? Just look for Steph. So if you got a mindset of the way I can help Steph is I can do what I'm good at. And some people feel like they're good at scoring. And Kuminga feel like, hey, I have an advantage. I'm the best athlete on this team. I'm the fastest player on this team. You know what I mean? I got my youth about me, and I got an offensive mind. Let me help Steph by doing what I can do well. Same thing Wiseman wanted to do. Same thing Michael Porter Jr. really wanted to do. At least they let Michael Porter Jr. start and score. You know what I mean? But they just didn't feature him. They didn't have no plan for him. Hey, man, you get your 18 points off catch and shoots. You know, it is what it is, you know, and now he's more happy in Brooklyn because he get some freedom. And now that Jokic is hurt and Adam is letting people get freedom like Watson, you see everybody stepping their game up because I have freedom, right? There's no freedom in an offense where you're just featuring one guy and everybody else is supposed to get their buckets and their shots off their gravity or off their assists. It's very weird. So it's very odd that Kuminga, while he's going back and forth he's butting heads with Steve Kerr, he's trying to get in the lineup and stay in the lineup. Steve Kerr is trying to get him to play like Draymond, which is the same thing he did with Wiggins. Remember when Wiggins was just this great, like a really good scorer, getting the ball in the mid post, low post, on the wing, taking people? Man, they came and transformed him into a whole power forward, into a Draymond Green 2.0. Just play defense and try, and it's gonna take him a while to find himself again. He in Miami and ain't like it's crazy. You know what I mean? But that's they wanted to turn him into that. Now they're shaping Butler into that. But Butler's comfortable with that. You get what I'm saying? He ain't got no problems with it. Right? Kuminga don't want to be like he don't want to be put in that box like that. Loney was like that. They wanted Wiseman to be more like Loney. That's why they butted heads with Wiseman. Then they started doing the same thing with Wiseman that they're doing with Kuminga now, benching him, dropping him down to the G League, and then eventually he was traded. I mean, you're not gonna use him. We might as well trade him, right? So that's what they're doing to Kuminga. Kuminga won't conform. Steve Kerr wanted him to conform, and he won't do it. So they benched him last year because he wouldn't conform. So Kuminga was like, all right, well, look, I just test free agency. And when he let them know he was going to test free agency, Golden State was like, well, we'll see who wants you in free agency when they ain't seen you play the whole season. So they benched him, didn't put him in the game. Before I even go on, Isaiah Thomas, the Hall of Famer, spoke on this.
An issue there between perhaps he and Steve Kerr. Like, what do you make of that?
Well, clearly there's an issue between him and Steve Kerr.
Rough.
I mean, because from a playing standpoint, it's kind of universally accepted that he can play. Now, here's what we don't know, right? We don't know if he can play because Steve Kerr hasn't really played him in years. And, very rarely does a player sit on a team's bench for years and don't get a chance to play, even when there's a coach-player, conflict, right? They're either moving that player on or something happens. But in this Kuminga situation, this has been the most serious situation that I've seen in a very long time, if ever, where we have a player that the NBA, generally agrees is an above average player, but he doesn't play, for
no reason.
I don't mean
think about it.
You're right.
But we talk about for years, right? And then they give him, money on top of it.
2 years, $49 million to not play.
Yeah, so it's a very strange situation. And I give Kuminga a lot of credit, but not blowing up. And he must have some good vets around him and some good people in his family, because I know if it was me or any other NBA player, by now we Latrell Sprewell, we choking the coach.
Yeah, if y'all don't remember what Latrell Sprewell did to PJ Carlesimo, his coach in Golden State, at practice, Carlesimo used to run his mouth and talk to players like he was their age, like he could throw them hands. And Sprewell tested them out one day, choked them out real good. Sprewell got suspended for the rest of the season and had to beg his way back into the league. But Isaiah Thomas referenced that and was like, look, man, if a coach play with my daggone livelihood, my minutes, my career, my money, you playing with it like that because you want me to freaking play like a robot, you're not gonna give me a chance. Like whatever you're saying that worked for 4 championships ain't working no more. So you keep trying to work this system around a 37-year-old who one game will give you 40 and hit all his threes, and then the very next game ain't got the legs and they go 2 from 13 from the 3-point line. And then the second guy, and Butler, you don't know when he go show up, but the punishment for Butler not showing up is nothing as long as he play within the system of Steve Kerr. But the punishment for Kuminga is you get benched. You get what I'm saying? Like the consequences for whatever, like Draymond Green just got into a whole argument with Steve Kerr on the bench. just a couple of weeks ago on national TV, and then got up in the middle of the game and walked to the locker room and just left the huddle. He was a player that was in the game, came on the timeout, was supposed to go back in the game. He just got up and left. Insubordination. So he gets no punishment, no suspension, no fine, no nothing. They talked about it. Oh man, it's water under the bridge. We owe, this is what happened when you've been around each other so much. We're like an old married couple. That's his punishment. But the punishment for Kuminga wanting to take shots is that you get benched. This is the problem with Golden State. It's a horribly ran operation ever since Bob Myers left. And even when Bob Myers was there, that was way too soft on Draymond Green. And when you let one person run amok, you can't really discipline none of them. Because I'm looking at you funny, like, hold on, dog. Like Draymond Green just did X, Y, and Z, didn't get no punishment. Dude, you cannot punish me. Like that don't make no sense, dog. Like, listen, let's get into how this went down. So Kuminga got his minutes played with because he wasn't conforming, and he finally was like, all right, I conform, how y'all want me to play? And he started doing it. He started getting minutes, started looking good. And then eventually, they're reeling back in, every time he did something, Steve Kerr didn't like, they bench him. It's almost like he didn't want him out there in the first place. But last year was the straw that broke the camel's back. All right, I'm gonna test free agents. All right, well, we'll go bench you then. We go drop your stock so low that when you test free agency, you're not gonna see the money you want, which is what people do, what teams do. Like if he's my client, I'm his agent, and I go to this other team and say, hey, we're thinking about, we're testing free agency, we're seeking this amount of money. And the GM of that team was like, we're not about to give him that. We haven't even seen him play in a year. I don't know what he can do. He might have regressed, right? Because they're negotiating, trying to get someone on the cheap as well. So they're going to use whatever bargaining chips they got or whatever tactics they could use to get this for as low as possible. What is Golden State willing to offer him? Well, we're not going to offer him more than that. Right. So so Golden State knows that. So they was like, we go bench him. And when he goes out and tests free agency and he don't get what he like, we'll offer him something low ball and then we'll get him. And then we can trade him during the season. Right. Because if we let him walk in free agency, then we don't get nothing. So they had two agendas. If we play him and he looks good and he walks in free agency, they're going to offer him some money that we can't match because he was a restricted free agent. So whatever money that he got offered, qualifying offer, Golden State can match it and keep him on the roster. So Golden State knew that, all right, man, the ball is in our court. As long as they don't offer him too much, we can match it and keep him. And they wasn't trying to match him and match it and keep it because they wanted to build around him in the future. They was trying to match it and keep it because we missed our opportunity to trade him this season. So now we have to do this game to lower his value. That way he don't leave us and sign for something that we can't afford, and we can re-sign him and then trade him at the deadline next season. Right? So the whole summer, they not close on the amount of money they're trying to, I think it was the money wasn't that close, and then the years wasn't close. And then when the years got close, I think Golden State wanted a team option. They wanted a 1 year with a team option for the second. It was something weird, and Kuminga, his agent was like, nah, we don't want no team option. And then we want, whatever the case may be. It was like back and forth, and they finally figured out for 2 years. I was like, that was dumb for you to sign with them. They're signing you just so they can trade you. They showed you the last 2 years they don't want to play you. They're only signing you so they can trade you and get something for. They don't want to lose you for nothing. They're only signing you so they can get something for you next year. So to make it seem like they was really trying, he's in the starting lineup the first 12 games of the season. So, we signed Kuminga. That's all we wanted was to sign him. Now he's in the starting lineup. But the true color showed when they started out in 6-6. So you start out 6-6, and the scapegoat and the reason for Jonathan Kuminga, Steve Kerr kept saying all this stuff in the media. some guys got to do X, Y, and Z, and some guys think they can blah, blah, blah. Everybody knew they was talking about Kuminga. Because as soon as they start saying stuff like that, I think Jimmy Butler, Draymond, they said something too. It was all subliminal talking about Kuminga. And the next thing you know, he's not in the starting lineup no more. And the first 12 games, they were 6-6. And now they're in game 30, 34 or something like that. And Kuminga hasn't played in but 6 games since then. DNP. They're not even playing him on the bench. Right? And what I think is really going on, they didn't want to keep him and play him, but they didn't want him to walk for nothing. So they tricked him into signing. Then to make it seem like they really was committed to him, they put him in the starting lineup. But the first sign of adversity, they blamed him for it and benched him. So his punishment, well, first and foremost, they go 6-6. They're playing 500 basketball, and the punishment is Kuminga, you get benched and you can't get back in. You got to earn your minutes back. Why am I the only one getting punished for us being 6-6? And why is my punishment always getting stuck at the end of the bench? Why is that always my punishment? Like, it don't make no sense. Here's Steve Kerr with his owl-looking face trying to explain this to a radio station for Golden State.
And Steve, I'm going to annoy you here with this question. I'm willing to do it though, because it's so noticeable that when the bench gets emptied, there's still one guy that doesn't come off the bench. So even in what they call garbage time, why does Jonathan not go in at that point?
I'm just going to say it's a difficult situation. I think you guys know it. Everybody knows it. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a difficult situation.
And it's probably one that won't get rectified to the extent that he will play more or he'll be a part of garbage time. It's kind of, I guess, for you, a little bit of a wait and see pattern.
It's just wait and see. We have to control what we can control. Try to keep moving the ship forward. And as I said, this is not an easy situation. It's not an easy one to talk about, frankly. I try to protect everybody organizationally, and nobody's winning right now with this situation, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Think about this.
So here's the translation. I don't want to play Kuminga. Joe Lacob wants me to play Kuminga. And that's the issue, right? So since I don't want to play him and I'm benching him, Joe Lacob's pissed off at me, but he hired me to be the coach, and this is my decision. If you don't want me to make that decision, you got to fire me. And that's the back and forth, and that's why it's so difficult. And that's why he's saying, I'm trying to protect everyone. No, it's just you don't want to play him. Just be honest, dog. Ain't nothing wrong with being honest. Be honest. Hey, man, we about to trade him. And, we working on a trade. We trying to find trades. We trying to trade them. But if he would commit to playing like a robot, like Andrew Wiggins and Draymond did, and like Gary Payton Jr. doing, if he plays like that, then we'll put him on the floor. We'll put him on the floor if he do that. But he has to submit himself to this style of play, and he has to play power forward and center and all this nonsense. Like it's just tomfoolery, and it's not working. And the crazy thing about it is they use the 6-6 start to bench Kuminga, but they still only 2 games above 500. They didn't get no better. They still playing 500 football basketball. It ain't no different. So you bench Kuminga as a punishment for being 6-6. But y'all still basically 500, just 2 games above 500. And y'all still average and still don't look good. Now y'all looking for another trade at the deadline to come and save y'all. I thought Jimmy Butler was the savior last year. I thought that was the trade that saved y'all. As soon as he got here, he got his extension. Imagine being Kuminga he was the last rookie in his class that was drafted in the lottery to get an extension. And he had to fight for it all summer. And all while he been fighting for it for 2 years to get an extension, Jimmy Butler shows up and he had already had an extension worked out before he even signed, before the trade even went down with Golden State. Soon as he signed with Golden State, he signed an extension. Soon as the trade went down. And imagine looking at the guy at my position, you go and get him like he's the savior. He gets an extension. And as a rookie, I ain't even got my rookie contract extended, but every other rookie in the lottery in my draft class, I already got extended. And you just bought a guy in my same position. And then the crazy thing about it is when Steph Curry got hurt against Minnesota in the playoffs, and we was like, all right, Jimmy Butler's the number 2. He got to go off. Let's see playoff Jimmy. Playoff Jimmy didn't even shoot more than 9 shots that first game without Steph. They had to put Kuminga in the game. They benched him all the second half of the season. And because Jimmy Butler was gun shy, they had to put Kuminga in, and Kuminga came in and was averaging 24 points, 25 points in 30 minutes. That simple. Ain't played since the All-Star break, got in that quick and was the best player on the team. Jimmy Butler, the guy that you brought in for my same position, didn't even freaking pull it. He didn't even put, he was gun shy. You had to put this guy that you claim ain't good for the team. You had to put me in to have some type of offense. Ain't that crazy? And I can't get an extension, but he got one. That's the type of stuff we talking about with Golden State, and that's why I can't stand this organization, man. Like, it used to be one of my favorites, man. This is like Draymond and Steve Kerr, and the passive aggressive or the passiveness of Steph Curry is just, it ran so many people off, man. It ran Clay off, it ran KD off, it ran Wiseman off, it ran Pascal off, Eric Pascal, it ran Jordan Poole off, like it ran Bob Myers off. Iguodala, yeah, I retire. Sean Livingston had 4-5 years left in him. I retire. Like, it's just unreal, man. This is how I know it's a rift between the owner and Steve Kerr.
Team, what Steph need to do every night to win? Drop 50, where you drop 48 in a loss on Sunday. Team is in need of a real second option. Jimmy's tools are being underutilized because he's playing as a power forward due to the small position players. We have no true center. I am so frustrated. Thanks, Justin. Well, like a reply to 2 minutes saying, you can't be as frustrated as me. I am working on it. It's complicated. Style of play. Coach's desires regarding players. League trends. Jimmy is not the problem. Whoa. What's going on here? We got the owner, and it's been confirmed that it was Joe Lacob who replied. And the big takeaway I had, Dalton, was style of play and coach's desires regarding players. We know Joe Lacob's a big fan.
So that's a radio station in Oakland. I think it's 95.7 The Fan. Reading the email that came from a fan to Joe Lacob, expressing his frustrations with the team and how they've been performing, and how watching Jimmy Butler play power forward and we ain't got no true center and all this stuff is frustrating. And Joe Lacob responded back and said, you can't be more frustrated than me. And he named all the things. He was like, coach, having issues with players, the play style. And he said, Jimmy is not the problem. It's obvious what the owner was saying. So there's a lot going on, and I'm glad Jonathan Kuminga requested the trade. As a matter of fact, the reports didn't even say trade request. It said trade demand. And I'm glad he did demand it. And I hope you get up out of that shithole of an organization, man. Listen, I appreciate y'all, man. I got to run. I got 2 or 3 more topics I got to run through. So I will see y'all back in probably a couple of hours or maybe after the game. So I catch y'all on the next one, man. Peace.